Okay, what I'm going to go over is the dynastic cycle. Now, we use China as the example for this because there's much more connectiveness between every empire in China. We haven't gone so far back to the Shang or the Zhou or the Han or the Qin. We pretty much start with the Sui Tang Song, but it continues on with the Yuan, Ming Qing, and then the Republic of China and Mao Zedong. So you can see I just rattled off every empire that fast for the last 3,000 years of China, and that's why they're connected. Every area in the world have empires, and they all follow this dynastic cycle. We just use China as the example because it's so connected between each one, and it follows it so precisely. It's the perfect example to follow. If we did Europe, there's more fragmented societies, there's more disunity and struggling with bringing it back together and huge gaps. China is a great example, and that's why we use China, because there's a few things with this that are specific to China, and that's why we're using it. Okay, so this is called the dynastic cycle. Let's see if this is better. Oh, that's okay. The dynastic cycle. So the dynastic cycle is in 3 parts. You have your expansion phase. This is going to be the consolidation phase. And then this is the collapse phase. Do that every time. And then the cycle starts all over. The difference here is that China has something different than every country called the mandate of heaven. So we're going to put that right here. I got my colors before I did the video. Okay. I mean, every empire kind of goes through this. You got Hirohito of Japan, really is a god figure to the people. In a lot of Islamic societies, you have a leader of that country. The Shah of Iran is almost godlike. Don't get me wrong, he's not, and but he's close to that. People follow him pretty close. In Europe, you had kings put in place and had divine right. So it's kind of replicated throughout the world, but not perfectly. But the mandate of heaven is like the heavens bestow success upon the emperor, and as long as he treats the people fine, they'll have success. So this probably comes, well, not probably, it does come from the Confucian values that is tied in with the veneration of ancestors. So this first phase is going to be Confucian. I'm sorry. Oops. The first phase is legalistic, although there's some Confucian in here. We'll put legalistic. And this is going to be hardcore Confucianism. And then this is a syncretic blend, diverse blend of religions. In this case, it could be Taoism, Buddhism, Confucianism, all mixed together. Although it's all kind of happening at the same time, but it's more legalistic here, more Confucian here. But this comes from the Confucian values, and one of the concepts of Confucianism called the veneration of ancestors. So here is where you honor your family, and as the family is growing through time, some of your family members will die, and especially the father. But the family of the father will be buried at a family burial plot, and then the family that's still living will visit that burial plot. That's the veneration. Veneration is a big deal because through history, we're not talking about just one guy. You might have 500 family members in a burial plot, And when you visit it, it could be a 2-day trip to visit it. You might stay there for 2 days and take 2 days to go back home. So the veneration process is pretty big. It's going to include providing sacrifices. That could be money, trinkets, food, fine silks, fabrics, whatever. So I think you're kind of getting the idea of the concept of family honor, the veneration of ancestors, and that your ancestors look over you to bless you and help you be successful. And that your one leader would gain their support in what's known as the mandate of heaven. So when this gets kicked off, the first phase is called the expansion phase. This is the expansion phase, which is mainly military conquest. And that's why you have legalism as, we'll call it a religion. You know, we don't technically see it as a religion, but it's in place of a religion. There's a lot of law codes. Legalism is harsh. People get executed quickly. People get hands cut off for stealing something. When you look at our society today, there are some countries in this world that are kind of legalistic. In Saudi Arabia, they still have pretty harsh penalties for like adultery and for stealing and things like that. In the United States, we actually do have executions, but we don't have that many. And then in some countries, there's no executions. So I'm just trying to show you that legalism is very harsh, but it cleans up society. And don't get me wrong, some innocent people probably get caught up in it, and that's what the problem of it is. But to start an empire, legalism helps the leader control the society. So this is military conquest. And as you take territory, you will get the spoils of war. So you can become wealthy in this process, and that's why a lot of these guys like to go on this military conquest. And when you slow down your conquest, you got to stop eventually. And as this slows down, you begin to accumulate that wealth, and you become the military elite that rules over a territory. So now that you've stopped and you're done with your conquest, you're reaping the benefits of the territory you took over. If you don't administer that territory, it will stop having rewards for you. They'll stop making grain. They'll stop making silks. They'll stop making fabrics. Trade disintegrates. So you want to administer to it so they keep all those things going so you can collect the benefits from it. So these military elites will start to control land. They'll become landed elites. They might bring their cousins and family members in that become landed elites. And other people begin to buy up land and become aristocrats. So we kind of transition now. So we'll put that here. So the aristocracy controls the land. Now it's only going to be like 5% of your population is going to control 95% of the land. And at first, this is good for organizing your empire, controlling it, and it helps you. Well, first off, you can tax people. You're going to tax peasants, but you're going to tax aristocrats as well. Sometimes the aristocrats fight off taxes, but overall, setting up a system for taxation. So this is starting to build on itself. With this, you can help build the military. So the taxation helps build the military. You might even build a palace. Now, too many palaces is a waste of money. 1 or 2 palaces helps form legitimacy in you as the leader. So it's kind of bouncing back to here. So I'm trying to show you it's a transition. It's not like a perfect cut between the two. There's wiggle room here. But you're also going to do stuff for the people. Public works projects such as roads, bridges. Eventually, you're going to have law codes. So over here, you're more legalistic, but here, during the consolidation phase, you're going to fall back on a strong religion. Now, in this example, it will be Confucianism. It is argued that Confucianism is not a religion, but it does replace the need for religion, so it's there in that place. So this is the consolidation. So all this you see here is the consolidation phase. And if you think about it, the longer your empire goes, which look at the United States today, we are going longer into history, and we have more and more people becoming free, but we have to have laws for all this, and so we start to open up society, but you have to write new laws. I think the Texas legislature just passed a bill yesterday about voting rights here in Texas. Our federal government is coming up with laws about the stimulus package that they're working on right now. So I'm just trying to show you this never ends. As you grow, you actually get more complex and dynamic, which is going to call for more complex and dynamic laws. I mean, look at the mask law. We haven't even figured out if we're supposed to wear masks or not. You know, we got the governor and we got the Dallas County are arguing over this, and I'm not taking a side, I'm just showing you we're still today arguing about this. But to do that, you got to have lawyers. And to have lawyers, you got to have an education system. That education system is also going to create your engineers that are going to build the bridges. And to hold all this together with communication, it's good to have a postal service. We'll put that here. So hopefully you're starting to see this thing forming as a consolidation, but can you hold it together? Because eventually one day, some people are going to rise up and aren't happy with any of this. You got a larger population get more rights, and then they argue against the aristocracy. Even our government's doing this week. They're about ready to pass. Well, they've already passed about 3.5 trillion plus the 1.5 trillion infrastructure, which this infrastructure. Let's put that word in there. The problem is they know how to pay for it, so their argument is that they want to tax corporations and the rich more. They want to tax them more, and then send stimulus checks to lower paid people. And a certain argument, the lower paid people are arguing they want this, and so you're starting to see that that's where we're at here. So you start to have peasant revolts. Now don't get me wrong, you can actually appease these peasant revolts. You can fix peasant revolts, usually through the process of land redistribution. Now the problem with land redistribution is you pretty much are going to have to take away some land from the aristocrats and give it to the peasants. A perfect example of this is the French Revolution, the communist revolution of Russia. How do you take land away from the landed elite and spread it out with the peasants? Maybe you can take just a little bit, but then create new land, which happens through your expansion, if you can keep expanding. That's one of the problems. So there's a chance you could cut this thing back over to here and keep this cycle going, but you start to lead into a problem with land, especially in China. There's always peasant rebellions at a certain point because they got a problem with land redistribution. And the leaders try to do it, but it fails. And so what happens is a group of people stop paying taxes, and that's usually warlords. Warlords will stop taxation. If they stop paying taxes, that means you can't keep your law codes going, you can't keep your lawyers educated, you can't keep your schools functioning, you can't create engineers, you won't maintain your bridges, you won't maintain your roads, you won't maintain your palaces, which causes this to start to weaken. And now the family begins to argue. Once there's a weakness, family members begin to argue. You might have different family names, different family groups, or it could be two brothers are going to argue against each other because of this weakness. So you have factional infighting. So now, internally, you have problems. How are you going to hold the empire together? Taxation, you can't bring it in. You got warlords that not only stop paying taxes, but they start building their own armies. Hopefully you start to see this is a military group that's going to come attack you eventually. What's even bigger is a foreign country, a foreign empire invades you. When that foreign invasion comes in China, in the example of our textbook, you have Mongolians are the ultimate one, and you're reading about that. But you have the smaller tribes, such as the Xiongnu. The Xiongnu, so if this was China, well, I covered it in the map one, so you look at the video with the map. The Xiongnu actually occupied the capital of China for a while, and the imperial family wanted them to because they killed the peasant revolt. But then you have the Jurchen, and the Jurchen are constantly attacking that north part of China, and the Jurchen ultimately conquered. They take it. So when we talk about a Chinese empire, it's usually more of a southern part of China. So the Song Empire is actually southern China. It's not all of China. The other one is going to be the Uyghurs. Now, I like bringing up the Uyghurs because they today are the Muslim tribal group that's in western China, but historically they are the ones who would take the trade from China and take it on the Silk Roads through Afghanistan and through the Central Asia and to the Middle East. So the Uyghurs are important on the trade routes, and it's the Uyghurs that are being persecuted by China today. And so all those pose threats of invasions to China and can weaken it, and it will cause empires to collapse. Now, in China's case, guess what happens? A charismatic leader comes in. And guess what he has? Mandate of heaven. Today, China is led by the Communist Party, and the leader is Xi Jinping. He does officially have the mandate of heaven. Okay, stop it.